Our today's guest, who came from the United States, is not only a soldier of the armed forces of Ukraine, he's also an experienced engineer who joined the army to defend Ukrainian people and share his knowledge that saves Ukrainian lives. Dear friends, today in Brave Hearts, James from the United States.
Hi, I'm James. I'm an American in the Ukrainian army, and I also have a YouTube channel that's kind of on pause right now. It's Why Ukraine: The Last Alliance. But yeah, I'm working with drones and communications in the Ukrainian army, and it's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
What brought you to Ukraine and how did you end up wearing the Ukrainian military uniform?
I came to Ukraine in 2019, so before the full-scale invasion, and I came here really to live. I traveled around Europe. After I left NASA, I just felt like I needed to kind of get out of the United States. This was when Trump won, during Trump won, and I really wanted to come and live in Europe. And I was really interested in exploring Ukraine. Back when Maidan was happening, I was actually VP of an IT company, and we hired Ukrainians, and so our Ukrainian employees were at Maidan, and I was just really impressed by that. Everything that happened here, and I really wanted to come and visit the country. And when I did finally come, I was just fell in love. I was like, wow, this is where I want to be. This is where I should be. I just felt totally at home. So I got married the weekend before the war started, the full-scale invasion in Kyiv, and I just had, I mean, just the perfect life. I mean, for me, at least, I was doing everything I wanted to do and just living the dream. And then Putin screwed it all up. And I unfortunately, when the war started, I got COVID on the marshrutka going to leaving Kyiv, and got terribly, terribly sick. And so the first 2 months of the war, I couldn't even get out of bed. And when I was finally healthy enough to join the army, nobody wanted me. So, so now, I spent the past like 3 years trying to get into the army in various ways, and finally this past November, they let me in. Yay! So, yeah, now I'm in and having a great time.
What is the best place to live in Ukraine?
Well, I I live in Cherkasy Oblast, and I love it there. It's like the Shire to me from like Lord of the Rings, you know. I also lived for some time in Zakarpattia. I really love the Carpathians a lot. The west of Ukraine is really great. And I've traveled all over now. I really miss Kyiv. I was very impressed with Kharkiv. Um, Gosh, where's the best part of Ukraine? That's a tough one. I don't know. Probably my hometown, in Cherkasy Oblast.
Yes, absolutely beautiful. Can you talk a bit more about your work? What do you do?
Well, I'm involved in some of the more technical aspects. So, um, engineering, drone. I'm a drone technician, and I work in communications. So the current project that I am heading up right now for my unit is to replace Starlink on the front lines, and that's a really big project. I'm heading up a whole team for that, and we've been incredibly successful. I've been really happy with it. It's a lot of work, but it's cheaper, and we're 6 times faster than Starlink.
James, in your opinion, based on what's happening in the United States nowadays, is there a risk of losing the Starlink connection in Ukraine?
Yeah, I mean that's why I proposed it um when I joined the battalion. They came to me and they said, "Well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'm happy. Give me a shovel. I'll do anything. I'd love to work with drones and all of that, but I feel like what's the most important and necessary right now that best fits my skill set as a network engineer is to find a backup or replacement for Starlink, because Donald Trump could just, have a bad hamburger tomorrow, or Elon Musk takes too much ketamine, and all of a sudden Starlink is turned off. And some units, sorry, microphone, some units have already experienced that, just for technical reasons. But also, as we know, at the start of the war, where Elon Musk just flipped it off, and it was a disaster. And so it's just I don't it's not a risk that we can take militarily. We need to have a backup. We need to have integrated systems, multiple methodologies for communications, and I'm glad that somebody's finally listening to me about it.
Are there alternatives to the Starlink that Ukrainian soldiers and civilians could use on the same scale?
Yeah, well, I mean, about Eutelsat, of course. Now, Eutelsat has come out and said, actually, we can't replace Starlink because they don't have the capacity. But anyone who is not currently in Ukraine, any Ukrainians who've left Ukraine, they've all told me, and I've experienced it myself, that the internet in Ukraine is just much better than, say, Germany, or certainly most of the United States. There's better, faster internet infrastructure, and Ukraine can leverage that power. That internet infrastructure, the massive IT workforce that exists here, can all be leveraged to improve military communications. So, I mean, like most people, like in Kyiv, or even at my home in Cherkasy Oblast, pay maybe 200, 400 hryvnias a month for like gigabit speeds, or 400 megabits, something like that. Do you know, when I worked at NASA, do you know how much that cost at NASA? $4,000 a month. Yeah. So, like, the grass is not always greener, okay? And we were right next to Google. This is in Silicon Valley. And even at my home in Silicon Valley, in Sunnyvale, the fastest speed that I could get was 12 megabits, which I provide faster speeds to the frontline trenches right now than what I was able to get in Silicon Valley right down the street from Apple. And for that, I paid $108 a month. So Ukraine has this amazing resource that can be used, and so why not?
Speaking of drones, who has advantage at this very point at the battlefield? Russians or us?
I think it's a constant cat and mouse game. It's just going back and forth, and some days it's us, and some days it feels like it's them, and it's they're hunting us and we're hunting them, and I think the advantage that the orcs have is the ability to scale. So in other words, the ability to just they essentially have a command economy, and they can just mass manufacture. And Ukraine has more of a like old school Silicon Valley, where you've got 1,001 mom and pop shops who are all reinventing the wheel, and it's great for creativity, and it's great for coming up with new solutions, but it's not great for the mass quantities of drones that we need. And that's a big transition that Ukraine is trying to make, and has to make. The innovation is great, but when the orcs copy it in 2 weeks, um, it's we're just giving them our best ideas, so we have to come up with these ideas and then make them at scale quickly.
What is the biggest challenge faced nowadays by the drone developers in Ukraine?
Yeah, that scaling and quality, you know, um, learning quality assurance techniques, learning mass manufacturing techniques. I mean, I talked earlier about Ukraine being this amazing IT resource, but that's not the same as IT manufacturing. I mean, the manufacturing was done in China previously. Ukraine did a lot of like design work, and then the boards or whatever the thing was made in China. That before the full scale invasion, and now Ukraine has to start making things by itself. And there are some companies that are doing that, I think, in Ukraine, but not everyone yet. So
Our viewers often ask if there's a possibility for people around the world to support Ukrainian developers by printing and sending drone parts to Ukraine. Is there such a possibility for other people?
maybe for very specific things that are just really important, like China seems to be reluctant to send things to Ukraine, and so if people want to act as third parties for stuff from China, we have 3D printers out the wazoo here. That's a technical term, the wazoo. Um, and so I even have a friend who came here with a bunch of 3D printers to 3D print stuff here. We've got 3D printers like crazy. Um, it's it's more about the stuff that we can't get that's difficult, and that's chips, to be honest. Uh, Flight controllers, uh, that sort of stuff, from China. But now there's starting to be that manufacturing here in Ukraine, actually physically making circuit boards, and that has to be the emphasis: is moving that manufacturing into Ukraine. I think that what we need to do, honestly, Starsky, is start coordinating better. And I say, I'm talking to you and me and all of us YouTubers and things, start coordinating better, perhaps with Ukrainian drone manufacturers, because we have this vast resource of people in private individuals in America and Europe who want to help Ukraine in some kind of way. So if we could kind of bridge that gap to say, okay, this is what Ukrainian drone manufacturers need today because it's going to change next week, you know, and kind of a running list of things that are needed, because that's constantly changing. It's just an idea, but just to get Ukrainian drone manufacturers over that hump of these shortages of different things, and that's a big place where quality becomes a problem, because if the drone manufacturer, it could be a mom and pop shop or it could be a big factory, if they can't get this technical piece of whatever, well, then they have to substitute it with something else. And now you have a potential quality problem. You have a potential conflict in the software, the programming, the firmware, whatever. And this leads to problems. And then in my drone lab at the battalion, we will sometimes get stuff from one uh, shop, one manufacturer, and it's got 10 different types of components in it for one thing. And it's because they couldn't get enough of this, so they had to substitute with that. And very often in those circumstances, we find that there are technical problems with the drone, and we have to either fix it or, I don't know, throw it away or something. It's a problem.
What's your favorite type of drone to work with?
I mean, I've been working a lot with quadcopters recently, obviously, for the past, month or so, especially. But I do like the fixed wing drones. I think that over time, I think that fixed wing drones are going to become more and more prevalent in all sorts of uses. I think quadcopters are great for, 20 kilometers. Okay. But we need to go further. We need to go 50, 100, 250 kilometers. And when you get into those ranges, your fixed wing drones are the only ones that are going to do it. And so those drones they're going to start getting bigger, longer ranges. Um, and if I had a choice, I haven't had a chance to work on them yet, but if I had a choice of a kind of drone that I would like to work on, it would be the cardboard drones. You know those?
Yeah.
The Corvo, I think. Yeah, that's what I'd really like to check out, you know.
So
So,
basically everything that flies. But do you have
yeah.
experience of working with land drones, maybe wheeled drones?
No, no, not yet. I mean, obviously I've seen them, but I haven't started working with them yet. That's that's a whole other kettle of fish, you know. It's going to be interesting when I think within the next year we're going to start to see those much more prevalently on the battlefield and um, replacing soldiers in many roles, which is a good thing, but also a little bit scary.
Do you think that it's possible that in the future we will see armies consisting of drones only and powered by
Yeah,
AI?
or yeah, like almost drones only. At least everything on the front line um, will be drones and like 10% humans. And let's hope it never gets down to zero humans because then we're in Terminator Matrix territory.
Can you talk a bit more about people you're working with? Your team, what kind of people are they?
Amazing guys who are motivated, you know, and even the Mobics, the Mobics who come in and they're like, "Oh no, I'm in the army. No, it sucks." And they like and then they realize after a month or so, yeah, actually it's kind of fun. We're doing cool stuff here, you know? And we get to learn something every day. We're learning stuff. And these are things that are going to apply in many cases when the war's over. If you're working in drones, Ukraine's going to be the freaking world capital of drones and AI to all this other technology that's connected with it, you know? I mean, to me as a network engineer, a drone is just a wireless network, you know, a point to point bridge. And so all of these concepts have applications in the civilian world. And so I think that like in my lab, it's about half and half contract and Mobix, as it were. And it's interesting to see the change in attitude in the Mobic guys. Like they're like smiling more now and like, hey, this is really cool stuff that we get to do. And I've just been really impressed all along with 99.9% of all the soldiers that I've worked with, and it's been all Ukrainians. Um, I hear now there's like a few foreigners in my unit, but I haven't met them yet. Um, so yeah, just this, especially the guys I work with, great team, fantastic.
Generally speaking, what were your three biggest impressions about Ukraine?
I remember when I first, moved here in 2019. I was driving somewhere in Kiev or riding with someone in Kiev, and I just remember maybe it was on Paramohi uh, Boulevard, and there was this big mural that just said, "Freedom is our religion," you know, and that was like the moment when I was like, "Wow, I'm in the right place. This is a good place for me." So just the love that most Ukrainians have for freedom, the appreciation that Ukrainians have for freedom, I think is something that America or Americans in maybe now, maybe now they're starting to wake up to the idea that it's something valuable, but I don't know. I kind of doubt about it. Um, Another impression that I have about Ukrainians, and this is Europeans in general, but especially true of Ukrainians. There is an idiom, a saying that I learned before I came here, and I found it to be very true. Um, Americans are peaches, and Ukrainians are coconuts. So, Americans are very soft and fuzzy, on the outside, and sweet and everything, but we have a very hard center that you'll never quite crack. And Europeans, but especially Ukrainians, they're kind of hard on the outside. They've got this very thick, rough outer personality, perhaps. But once you like drill past that, they're just milky sweet bleh inside, you know. Um, that's a that's a big one. So yeah. Um, and the third thing, because you did ask me three, you guys can't deal with real spices. And I'm from California and New Mexico, and so I gotta have my chili perettes, you know. Yeah, I keep some. I always have some. Yeah, I keep it in. I actually grow on my little farm in Cherkasy Oblast. I grow about 50 chili pepper plants every year, and that just about enough to get me through for an entire year. So yeah,
Oh my God.
habanero.
One time I tried Tabasco sauce from an American MRE, and I realized that that stuff is literally what they make the rocket fuel of, you know.
My daughter, who lives in New Mexico, my youngest, she keeps a little bottle of Tabasco sauce in the middle between the seats in her car, just to drink, just to sip throughout the day. So it's a little different, you know. Yeah.
If you were all of a sudden visited by your friends from the United States, your family, your daughter, which Ukrainian food would you advise them to try on the first place?
I would go for Salo. Salo number one, and then Holodets number two, you know. And then after they got done going, then I would say, okay, now you can try the borscht and the galupsi.
What do you think people around the world often misunderstand about Ukraine and about the war in Ukraine?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is how big Ukraine is. The Americans just cannot understand how big Ukraine is. Um, they I try to tell them like Ukraine is about the size of like California or Texas. Like if you turn California sideways, it would just about fit inside Ukraine. And that's like really mind blowing. So, um, and it's kind of connected with this, a lot of foreigners, Americans, but also Europeans, they see the war on TV and they think that that's all Ukraine is. You know, it's just like all of Ukraine looks like Pokrovsk right now, you know, and so this is why I don't have a lot of time to do like live streams on my YouTube channel or what have you, but um, I I post a lot of like short videos from just my travels around Ukraine, even before I joined the army, going to different like Kamenets Podilsky and Pirovo and Mamayeva Sloboda, historical stuff, but just walking around the streets and showing like the beautiful streets of Kyiv or Lviv or any other places, because there's so much beauty here, there's so much history here.
How can people support your cause and your team?
Yeah. Well, I have a website. It's Y Ukraine, so the letter Y and the word Ukraine.com. And listen, it's just me. It's just my own website that I set up. But if you'd like to donate to my project to replace Starlink on the front line, that's where you can go and do it. It's hugely, massively important, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to do it not only for my own unit, but others as well. In fact, we're already getting other units coming to us saying, yeah, can you do that for us too? And so I'm hoping to slowly spread this all the way along across the front lines, such that when the day comes and Elon Musk snaps his fingers, we'll be ready. You know? Yeah. So whyukraine.com.
Do you have a message to our viewers?
Oh, well, since I understand that a lot of viewers are Ukrainian, And I understand that, I have Ukrainians come to me all the time, civilians, and say, like, what do you think's going to happen? How long do you think this war's going to last? Do you think we're going to make it? Do you think we're going to survive? And my answer is it's going to last a lot longer than you think, at least another 2 years. And yes, Ukraine is going to win. Yes, we're going to be victorious. It's just going to take some time. And if America, if my country, I don't want to say my country, if Trump betrays us, there are millions of Americans who are desperate to help Ukraine. They're looking for any possible way. So what I'd encourage, Ukrainians to do is to try and reach out to individual Americans. Go on Facebook, go on freaking, Discord, Instagram, whatever, and start talking to America. Forget about how bad your English is. Nobody in America cares. They all speak terrible English anyway. Go out and talk to an American. And if you're an American, go onto Facebook and try to find some Ukrainians to start talking to. Yes, you can donate to help the homeless in your own country or whatever charity you want, but Ukraine is the crucible of freedom and democracy in the world right now. If democracy in Ukraine falls, every other democratic country is on the chopping block, like dominoes. Throughout history, a lot of people don't know how critical Ukraine has been. It's kind of this hidden crucible of history, going back 7,000 years, really. And once again, Ukraine is in this place and in this position where things that are happening here, this is the fulcrum of changes that are happening all over the world in terms of deglobalization, in terms of this hard push from democracy to autocracy. And if I'm telling you, if we lose the fight here, then America's next. The other countries in Europe are next. And it's not, Putin doesn't have to invade. He can he can take over like a virus, like a cancer.
And the last question, James, what is the strongest and most effective weapon that Ukrainians have today?
It's the will of the people. That is absolutely it. All the technology and all of the funding and all of the HIMARS and all of that, those don't make a difference. They really don't make a difference if you yourself don't care enough to take action, to volunteer, to fight, to, make drones, make drone parts. And granted, there are plenty of people here in Ukraine who just want to sit idly back and pretend like nothing's happening and stick their head in the sand. And there's always going to be those people all over the world in any sort of a crisis. But even if you're a Ukrainian who's left the country, you have a responsibility to give back in some way, and that's the greatest weapon that Ukrainians have, is their willingness to fight for their own freedom and their own democracy and never, ever back down.
War is evil, no doubt about that. But you know what they say, bad times often make good people. And some of those people, like James, come up with brilliant ideas that help us withstand this horrible period of our lives. People like James proved that technology works really well against tyranny, giving us all hope for better tomorrow. I'm Operator Starsky. Thanks for watching.